Very excited to be joined on the show by our next guest, who is both a civil rights lawyer, the head of the University of Denver's Social Movement Support Lab, and the author of the book we're here to discuss, Rich Thanks to Racism. Jim Freeman, welcome to the Damage Report.
Thanks for having me, John.
Very glad to have you here. People watching this are seeing an image of the book there. So how the ultra-wealthy profit from racial injustice. And that is a topic that we occasionally talk about here on our show. You delve into multiple different ways that this manifests in America. So can you tell us a little bit about the origins of the book, why you decided to focus on this particular topic?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I stumbled onto it. You know, I've been a civil rights lawyer for a long time, working with communities of color across the U.S. I'm trying to address issues of systemic racism. And, you know, for most of that time, I really thought like our enemy was ignorance. You know, that's what I thought we were working against. And it was only because I was working across different cities and across different states, and I started to see these patterns emerging where our opposition kept being the same people. And so eventually I just, started following the money a little bit, digging into who was funding these organizations, what their ideology was. And I came to realize that we weren't all aligned in this idea of addressing systemic racism, that there was an opposition to this that usually worked in secret, behind the scenes. And that was deeply, deeply invested in preserving the systems and policies that were upholding systemic racism.
So tell me a little bit about some of those organizations who early on stood out as one that you would often butt up against in your work.
I mean, certainly, ALEC, the American Legislative Exchange Council, I mean, that tends to be a pretty consistent thread throughout a lot of this work. And for those who don't know, ALEC represents somewhere in the neighborhood of 300 very large corporations and has something around 2,000 legislative members, mostly in state legislatures across the country, and they're extremely effective in getting their agenda across. And so they, around 1,000 of their model bills are introduced each year, and about 200 of them are passed into law. And they cover a range of topics, but a huge chunk of them, or a substantial chunk of them at least, really uphold or expand systemic racism. So they're one. But also in the book, I talk a lot about Charles Koch, and his late brother and the other billionaires and multimillionaires that they've organized, and how they've poured, tens of millions of dollars into think tanks and advocacy organizations and media outlets that have really been instrumental in making sure that we don't address some of these dynamics that have been really devastating for communities of color.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you focused on ALEC. It's been a bit since we spoke about ALEC on the show, but for people watching this that might not know, I mean, the model legislation that Jim's talking about there, very often in multiple states, you'll have bills with either very similar or sometimes identical language being passed by representatives that arguably don't even necessarily know what's going on. They just know that they're supposed to pass this. And so, yeah, not surprised to see this popping up in multiple different nation areas, considering the number of different corporations that they represent. Now, in your book, you focus on a couple of different areas that I want to make sure that we talk about. So one has to do with the dismantling of the public school system. So tell us a little bit about how that works.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I've been working for many years with communities that were really struggling with the effects of school privatizations, this expansion of charter schools and voucher programs, and the damage that was causing, in particular, closing down public schools. And so these were really traumatizing events for these communities. And then again, I started digging into who was funding this and kept running the same sort of names. So what I did for the book was I just picked 10 names, just some that are well known, like the Gates Foundation and the Walton Foundation and folks like that. But then also some that maybe haven't received a lot of publicity for work in this space, like Koch brothers. So I just picked 10, and I tracked their donations to 50 organizations that have been really instrumental in pushing this agenda forward. So this is just the tip of the iceberg of all the money going to this. But just those 10 people funding 10 organizations or 50 organizations. That was $3.2 billion that I was able to find. And so this is undoubtedly a billionaire-led effort that's having really, really dramatic effects in communities of color across the country, and in many cases causing extreme harm. And I don't think we've talked about it enough as an example of systemic racism.
Yeah, and especially some of the individuals that you've identified
Okay, I'm going to hold it right there, and I'm going to bring out some scriptures. This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 29 and verse 15. Woe unto them that seek deep to hide their counsel from the Lord, and their works are in the dark. And they say, who seeth us? Or who knoweth us? So you hear their tongues shall fall upon themselves. That's in the book of Psalms, chapter 64 and verse 8. Okay? Because this has been going on, people. Remember, Israel, to keep us in sin is to keep them to win. Okay? So they stay in power as long as we are we sin against the Lord, Yahweh, who the world called God, and his son Yahushua, who the world ignorantly called Jesus. Okay? So let's go to the book of Job, chapter 20 and verse 12. Though wickedness be sweet in his mouth, though he hide it under his tongue. Okay? Because their wickedness, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. They've been doing this, people. Okay? Some of the abominations, their restaurants, Red Lobster, McDonald's. Okay? Any pork, catfish, okay? Infested, abominable foods, crab, shrimp, lobster. All those are abominations unto us, and we sin when we eat that against the Lord. Okay? And they have a multitude of teamen, which are their scientists in laboratories doing mad scientist acts against us. And this is a continual thing that the rich are funding in order to compromise our sins for them, so they can stay ahead, people. Though he spare it and forsake it not, but keep it still within his mouth, yet his meat in his bowels is turned. It is the gall of apes, snakes, within him. That's snakes, apes. He have swallowed down riches, and he shall vomit them up again. God shall cast them out of his belly. He shall suck the poison of apes. The viper's tongue shall slay him. He shall not see the rivers, the floods of the brooks of honey and butters. Okay? That which he labored for shall he restore, and shall not swallow it down. Okay? So people, those who lead it into captivity shall go into captivity. So they took the children of Israel into captivity. Let's get another verse, and a couple of more, and I'm going to end it because my time is limited on my recorder. Okay? This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 30 and verse 16. Therefore, all they that devour thee shall be devoured, and all thy adversaries, every one of them, shall go into captivity. And they that spoil thee shall be a spoil. And all that preyed upon thee I will give for a prey. Okay? Let's go to Luke chapter 12 and verse 2. That's Luke chapter 12 and verse 2, people. For there is nothing covered that shall not be revealed. That's what's going on now. Okay? The man of perdition is being revealed. The man of destruction. Okay? Neither hid that shall not be known. So the Edomites, Edom, which are the so-called white man, because that came out in 1681, that term, in order for them to control the narrative, people. Okay? That's a systemized infiltration that they funded also. That's why you got us saying we're black, we're Indian, we're Mexican, okay? We're Jamaican, okay? All these bywords. And we're the Israelites, people. We're not African Americans. Before that, we were Afro Americans. Before that, we were colored. Before that, we were what? Negroes. Okay? Niggas and all kind of other bywords and proverbs that has been orchestrated and pushed on our people. Okay? And they don't like this truth. Okay? Let's get just one more. Let's go to the book of Habakkuk. Okay? Some say pronounce it Habakkuk, but I say Habakkuk. Okay? Chapter 2, and I'm going to read verse 16. Thou art filled with shameful glory. Okay? Because this is a shameful thing that's coming out in these last days. Okay? Because they've done it to glorify themselves. And all the other nations are seeing how they treated us in the slavery. Okay? What they did to the so-called Native American Indians. Drink thou also, and let thy foreskin be uncovered. Okay? Because in Jeremiah 49, 10 and 11, who's being revealed? Okay? Go read it. The cup of the Lord's right hand shall be turned unto thee, and shameful spewing shall be on thy glory. I'm going to end it there, and I'm going to call the name Yahweh and his son Yahweh Shai. I want to give double honors and respect to our elders and apostles, okay, within Israel. They're doing a beautiful work, okay, and also my camp that has been holding my hand, and that's the Battle Axe in Dallas. I want to thank those brothers, and also the like-minded Israelites, the hopeful elect that has been chosen to preach this and teach this word with the same doctrine, not coming with peace and not coming with weapons and falsehoods and calling on the name of other gods, okay? No. But honor to those other brothers, okay? I want to thank them. Thawada, that means thank you, okay? And I'm going to end it there. And thank you also for the GMS brothers who reach out to me and support me. And I love all my peoples, man, that's doing the righteous acts within the Bible, okay? And I'm going to leave it there. Wake up, Israel. And I'm going to say shalom.